Hey everybody, what is going on? It is Dunbar Snack Bar with NCAA 14, and we've got the Nebraska Dynasty coming your way. This one was even later than the Texas one, which I think I'm going to be posting after this. But I couldn't play South Dakota State, so they're going to be represented by FCS Midwest. I was like, even going through at the beginning of the season, I'm just like, who could I pick that might semi be like South Dakota State? Really couldn't come across with anybody. It wasn't like, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but it was just like, oh, Idaho State. Well, I'll just play against Idaho. So FCS Midwest, you guys kind of know how this one is going to go. So I'm calling this video Dear Bo Pelini, because you guys have probably heard, well, over the last week now, basically, a lot of the stuff that Nebraska fans have been having to face here, all the drama that we've been having in our football lives, which has been pretty intense at some points. Because after the big loss that we had to UCLA, I mean, it was a game where we kind of fell apart. And that's really been the major problem with Nebraska here, is in the big games, we really end up embarrassing ourselves, and we just look bad. And just this whole season, I mean, we've definitely had some struggles. Wyoming getting over 600 yards against us at home. Being up at one point 21-3 against UCLA and then having them score 38 unanswered points, that's not been pretty. And even in this game, there was one of their running backs, who, don't get me wrong, is a good running back, ended up getting like 200 yards against us, and there was a lot of big plays against our defense. So that's definitely been our weakness all year long. Now, a lot of people have been calling for Bo Pelini's job and stuff like that. And then there was somebody who came out with a tape of Bo Pelini. This was 2 years ago, where he was calling Nebraska fans, and he drops the F-bomb quite a bit, but he calls us like fair weather fans and, all these other things. Basically, him saying his disappointment with the fans and with some of the, sports writers here in Nebraska. And I remember that game very, very well that he was talking about in this recording from 2 years ago. Now, granted, this was supposed to stay private and everything. I mean, he didn't even know he was being recorded at this point. So, anyway, it was the night that I actually got married, and it was the biggest comeback in the history of Nebraska football. It was against Ohio State. And at halftime, it did not look pretty at all. And there were some people who ended up leaving, and that's why he was calling Nebraska fans fair weather fans, because of the fact that, a lot of them had left. They were booing the team, and it was just a crazy week, because one of the writers from the Omaha World Herald was saying that Taylor Martinez shouldn't be the starting quarterback, that he's terrible, and all this stuff. And Bo Pelini is the kind of guy who's going to defend his own players, so he wasn't too happy about it. It was a crazy week, and, all that came out. And I've thought it's been very interesting, the reaction that a lot of Husker fans have given to that recording and everything that's going on. So here's my take on it, my 2 cents. For what it's worth, probably not that much. But, as somebody who provides entertainment, because, unfortunately, that's kind of what football is for a lot of colleges, is a way to make money and to entertain a lot of fans. I can tell you, there's a lot of things that are ridiculously frustrating, even as being a commentator. Now, I can't imagine what it would be like to be a head coach of a college football team. I don't think that I could do it personally, because of all the expectations, all the crap that you get, and even with some of the stuff with me being a commentator, and being somewhat in the public, there's some stuff that I find frustrating. And if I was being recorded all the time and something got released of some of the stuff that I said at some points at the height of my frustration with commentating, some of you guys would be like, oh my gosh, did he just say that? Like, some people, just like the sports writer from, Omaha, will get on my nerves, and I'll just say stuff about one person, or, just the whole, expectations of what I'm supposed to do from people and things like that. And people are pretty rude to me, and then I can't imagine what it would be like, just being a coach of a football team. So I'm not too concerned about what he said. And he said that that's not indicative of how he really feels about Nebraska fans as a whole. And, I believe him. He apologized. It's time to move on. I think it's one of those things that we would be very hypocritical if we didn't forgive somebody who said something in the heat of the moment when he was ridiculously angry and had a very emotional week. I mean, such highs. He was beating Ohio State in the biggest comeback in the history of the school. That's awesome. Mixed in with all the negative things that he was feeling. Heck yes, he's going to say stuff that, he's going to regret saying. May not necessarily believe it. We've all said stuff in anger that we don't mean. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take his word for it and, give him that. Now, as far as the team goes, I mean, a lot of people are being like, hey, don't fire him because of what he said. If you're going to fire him because of the way that the team is going. Now, I'm kind of mixed on this because, again, going back to it, I am not a head coach of a college football team. I mean, the closest thing that I've ever gotten to coaching a football team is NCAA right here. That doesn't even come remotely close, but a huge pickup by Taylor Martinez until he coughs it up. And goes right into the hands of FCS Midwest. All right, so, I mean, my stance on how he's doing as a coach, I really can't go ahead and give a fair assessment on that. I mean, I'm not the one who knows the playbook. I'm not the one who, knows how well people are executing their roles and stuff like that. But what I can see, is people who miss tackles. And I see the numbers and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not happy about it. I don't know how anybody could be, happy with the performance of the team. The thing is, though, is Bo Pelini knows this is not good. In the last interview that he had against, South Dakota State, he said that this is, unfortunately, this is where the team is right now, and that's not where he wants us to be, and he's got to do some work to try and fix some things. Why are you just standing there? So, I mean, he knows that there's stuff that needs to be changed, and I think that those changes are going to be made. Nebraska fans, there's over Memorial Stadium where we play, there's a little sign that's put into the stadium. It's like carved into it that says, through these gates walk the greatest fans in college football, or something similar to that. Now, I think to some degree that is true. I know that there's a lot of people, from other teams who will come by. We'll invite them to our tailgates. We'll congratulate them. We'll welcome them to Lincoln. I mean, in that respect, I think we are among some of the greatest fans in college. Am I going to say that we are the greatest? No. But I think we have among some of the greatest fans. But I know when it comes to our own team, we are absolutely rough. If we're not winning, everybody is mad. But anyway, let me get back to that here, because you saw that big long pass. We're going to go with that one again. Kenny Bell with the touchdown. So I think we had like 16 seconds left here in the half. We throw two passes, get a touchdown, and still have a second to go. But yeah, I mean, the expectations that we have for our team is pretty unrealistic. I'm not going to lie. We were very, very spoiled in the 90s when we had Tom Osborne and we won the national championship in 94-95, and we shared it with Michigan in 97. So, having that many national championships, that close together, I mean, you got to think about it. Man, why did I dive? I dived way too early. But having so many national championships that early really is going to spoil, or that close together is going to spoil you. You think about it, 94 through 97, that's 3 years. 3 years of knowing nothing but being on top. So, now you get, a team here we're getting 9 wins a season, which is still pretty good, but people think that we should be doing better. And if we're not doing better right away, we're failing. Now, the thing is we talk about Tom Osborne. Some of you may know who Tom Osborne is. He is one of the greatest coaches that Nebraska's ever had. And anytime that Tom Osborne really says anything, like, everybody's just in awe of this guy. Like, he's an absolute legend in our eyes. And you think about who he took over for, Bob Devaney, who was another really, really big Nebraska head coach, and he won national championships in 70 and 71. And some people were calling for Tom Osborne's job because he wasn't able to go ahead and, you know, win the big games or win the championships and stuff like that. But we stuck with him, and it took him basically 20 years to go ahead and win a national championship. So here's Bo Pelini in his 7th year, and we're already calling for his job in the same way that we called for Tom Osborne's. Now, things are going to change. I mean, you can't go ahead and expect some mastermind to just come into a team, take it over, and make it the best team in college football. Now, are there things that Bo Pelini is going to have to learn? Yes. Are there mistakes that he's going to have to make to become a better coach? Yes. And the same thing holds true for his staff. Now, Nebraska's not a premier school anymore. That's just a fact. I mean, you got so many other places that you can go. I mean, the generation that is in college right now, you know, nobody's really like, oh my gosh, I want to play for Nebraska. I mean, there's so many more people, and you know, any type of recruit or, you know, sports, you know, fanatic will tell you this. If somebody has the choice of going to play in like a warm climate or Nebraska, there's really no contest. Plus, there's a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes about Nebraska as a whole that, you know, well, true story. Okay, so I was living in California, and I got a letter from somebody, and it was just, you know, a letter, and really nothing big. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to test something real quick. So they knew I was from Lincoln, Nebraska, and that Lincoln is the capital. And I opened up the letter, and I started reading a little bit, and I just pretended to get super excited. I was like, yes. Yes, I can't believe it. And they're like, what? What is it? And I'm like, we're getting our first street light. And everybody, like, believed it. Like, they didn't even second guess me. They're like, oh, wow, that's so cool. You're getting your first street light? I'm like, yeah. And apparently we're going to be getting an elevator here in the next few months, too. Just because that's what people thought Nebraska is really like. Like, you just hear cornfields and stuff, and that's it. You know, so there's a lot of misconceptions and stuff about Nebraska that people don't necessarily want to go ahead and like, come to Nebraska and things like that when, you know, you've got other choices here. So as far as recruiting goes, we're at a serious disadvantage, and we will always be at a serious disadvantage. But I think that what Bo Pelini has done has been pretty good. You know, and when you look at the stuff off the field, I think that that's what's more important. I mean, sure, wins and losses, watching a team on Saturdays is great, but you can't forget that these are human beings. And Bo Pelini has had one of the highest graduation rates of any college football coach in Nebraska, which I think is a great thing. And, you know, academic All-Americans has been a huge thing for him. And he's really not only developed football players, but he's developed leaders and, you know, men and stuff like that. And I think that that's a huge part as well that can't be ignored. You know, people take a look at only what happens on the field and doesn't realize that, you know, there's a much bigger picture to what's going on than that. So I get asked, should we let Bo Pelini go? Personally, I don't think so. I think Bo Pelini needs to make mistakes, and he needs to make some changes. He needs to learn from those mistakes, so that way he can be the type of coach that Nebraska wants. Bo Pelini is still a, you know, sought-after prospect for positions. I mean, I know when Ohio State opened up, a lot of people were thinking, well, Bo Pelini's going to go there, you know, and stuff like that. And I think that he really is a great coach and a great human being. You know, is he a very passionate person? I mean, does he say stuff and do stuff that he probably shouldn't? Yes, but so does everybody else. So, no, I don't think we should let him go. You know, if anybody has to get fired, I think there's some people on the defensive staff who needs to be let go. Maybe. Because, I mean, I don't want to really be calling for anybody's job because, I mean, I understand exactly what that means. You know, saying that you want somebody to be unemployed just because you want your team to win. So I think that a lot of what's happened over this past week has been a major wake-up call to a lot of Husker fans. There's been a lot of, blog posts and a lot of discussion and things like that about how we are, because I think Bo really hit some stuff on the head, though. When he was going through his whole anger phase and stuff like that, and there's a lot of truth, I think, to what he said, and it's caused a lot of us to reflect. And the fact is, at the end of the day, Bo Pelini is the coach. So as long as he is the coach, I'm going to go ahead and support him. Do I think changes need to be made? Like I've said plenty of times, yes, but I will support him. I don't know how to implement those changes, stuff like that. I'm not the coach, so it's not for me to go ahead and tell him what to do, but I'm going to support the Scarlet and Cream and the tradition that our team has, and the thing that makes Nebraska football great. I'm going to stick by that stuff. So, I know it's tough because for us in Nebraska, this is the closest thing that we have to professional sports. This is it. So, we want our team to win and everything like that. We are imperfect people, as fans watching imperfect people play the game and imperfect people coach. So, yeah, I got to focus on the good stuff and be the best possible Husker fan that I can be. So that should be the end of the game for us here, at least this last play will. So thanks for letting me talk about everything that's going on with Husker football lately. Like I said, I support Bo, and I will continue to support Nebraska here for the years to come. So anyway, big win right here for us, which was what I was expecting going against FCS Midwest. But thanks for watching, you guys. I sure do appreciate it. More of this to come later on, so make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and all that jazz. But you guys are phenomenal people. You really are. Thank you again. And as always, I hope you guys have a good one.